I know Clark is depressed here and all, but seriously, that just killed someone. Season 6 is an epic season of Smallville with a little bit of a dark edge to it. What did you think of Season 6? Is it one of your favorites? Let's talk about that in the comments. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my theological review for Smallville Season 6. Like I said, this is a great season for Smallville. Like Season 3, I feel like it does have a little bit of a dark edge to it, but they do a fantastic job with it. We get a lot of great stuff this season. We have the Green Arrow, Oliver Queen coming to Smallville. We get a Justice League this season. We get a certain Martian arriving. A lot of awesome DC comic things start to come into play with yet again another epic season finale and some pretty good life lessons along the way as we go through this season. If you like this type of video that I do, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share this with a friend.
The war is about to begin.
Overall, Season 6 of Smallville is an epic season for the show. It does have a huge lame thing that I'm really going to get into, and yes, spoiler alert, it has to do with Lana Lang.
He wants us to react. Please don't.
Oh gosh, but the point is, as a whole, Season 6 does a lot of great stuff. I mean, picking it up right from the beginning, one of the things that I loved about the beginning of Season 6 is Lex Luthor as General Zod. Now, Michael Rosenbaum is fantastic as Lex Luthor, my favorite live-action Lex. But as soon as Zod possesses him, it's incredible, and he does a good job distinguishing between Lex Luthor and Zod. Like in Season 5, right when Zod takes over, and he turns to Kal-El and says those first words.
You have your father's eyes. Hello, Kal-El.
Ugh, it's epic, and you could just see the difference. He's playing a totally different character, and I really think Michael Rosenbaum does a great job with that. But the whole premiere of Season 6 is actually pretty epic. I mean, you have Clark floating away in that glass Phantom Zone thingy, and he falls right through the floor and ends up in the Phantom Zone itself. Now, that is very cool, to actually get to see the Phantom Zone as this timeless alternate dimension, and it is timeless. So that's a very interesting factor that we get, and we find that a lot of Kryptonians have been disembodied. So their spirits, or the spirits of these other aliens, they're running around freely here in the Phantom Zone, and then encountered other Kryptonians who were not disembodied, who were just living in the Phantom Zone, namely Raya. And what was so cool about Clark meeting Raya is like how much Raya grows Clark Kent as a person. I mean, first right here in the Phantom Zone, and then later when she's released from the Phantom Zone, and they meet on Earth. But what I really like about her character is the layers that she gives Jor-El. And we kind of always had that with Jor-El, right? Where in Season 3, when we see Tom Welling playing Jor-El, walking around Smallville, when there's flesh and blood on Jor-El, we get more of that human side of him. But when he's that AI voice, it feels colder. Except for here in Season 6 when he's talking to Martha Kent.
Everything you have done for Kal-El, you have my deepest gratitude. I could not have wished for a brighter light to guide my son.
Like, what an amazing compliment and what a great line. But then you have Raya talking about what a hero Jor-El is.
Why didn't he and my mother come with you?
Because he wouldn't stop trying to save Krypton, and your mother wouldn't leave his side.
How Jor-El is one of Raya's great personal heroes. How she loved working for him. Talking about the care he took and every detail of building Clark's ship, including the blanket. Like, all of the detail and all the stuff that he put into it. And the fact that he stayed on Krypton was him sacrificing himself to save as many as he could. But all he could save was his son.
If there was a way for you to save everyone you loved, wouldn't you risk dying?
Truly are your father's son.
And so it's very interesting because our perception of Jor-El has been very different. And what's so smart how they do this is you have Clark facing that same thing we're facing. And now he's got to reconcile this. So that's a very interesting take that they have. And then Raya has that crystal with the House of El, the symbol of Superman on it.
Every day he still saves my life.
Because he made her that crystal, and it chases away the phantoms. And then Jor-El built a back door into the Phantom Zone in case any of the House of El found themselves in the Phantom Zone. the blood from the House of El will open the gate and release them. And so that was kind of cool to see Clark, like the fact that he got caught in the Phantom Zone didn't mean he was stuck there, because his father was taking care of him. That if he ever found himself there, his father provided him a way out. And putting his blood on that Superman S, it brought him back to Smallville, which is funny because he releases a bunch of Phantoms all over the world. But Clark happens to land right back in Smallville. So that is kind of funny and that is kind of convenient. Still, it led to this epic showdown between Zod and Lex Luthor's body and Clark. And I love it because it reminds me of Man of Steel here. Because you know the whole plot of Man of Steel is the world engine, and the world is now a slave to the world engine. The huge thing that Zod wanted to do was use the world engine to change the mass of the Earth and the atmosphere so that Krypton could be remade. Krypton could be reborn. And here, Zod possessing Lex Luthor is doing that same thing. So that box that's spinning on the computer, it's Kryptonian technology. It's tapping into all of our satellites, and it's sending out a signal to transform the Earth into Krypton. So I thought that was a cool connection. And you know, it's like a Man of Steel nod long before Man of Steel. But then they do this amazing Superman 2 nod. I like the fight between Kal-El and Zod. I thought they did a great job with it. And then the way they ended that fight, because it's like, how is Clark going to defeat him here? And then, you know, you have Lex Luthor with his kneel before Zod.
Kneel before Zod.
And I love that. And Clark kneels and takes his hand. And here I am thinking Superman 2, when he took away Zod's power, and Zod didn't realize that yet. And Superman takes Zod's hand, crushes it, breaking every bone in his hand, and then picking him up and throwing him in that pit of despair. Well, Clark had hidden in his hand the crystal that Raya had given him. And I love it because it took the spirit of Zod out of Lex and banished the spirit of Zod back to the Phantom Zone, while taking away the Kryptonian powers from Lex Luthor and saving Lex himself. And I love that because it was very hard to take at the end of season 5 that Jor-El had given Clark a dagger and said, you need to kill the vessel of Zod. I mean, for Clark to kill, period, is a very difficult thing because it's not in him. And that's kind of like one of the wonderful things about Superman. And so the fact that he couldn't even kill Lex and threw the dagger into Brainiac is kind of what opened that portal, brought about Zod possessing Lex's body and all this with Dark Thursday. But what was even cooler here was the fact that it's like Jor-El had already prepared a way for this to happen.
My father sends his regards.
And with the crystal, he was able to banish Zod and save Lex. And so that was a really cool moment, as well as that epic nod to Superman 2. And I love the fact that season 6 is a quest season. I liked season 4 because of the quest. Going out questing to find the 3 Kryptonian elements and unite them as one. I thought that was very cool, and I enjoyed that whole element. Season 6 returns that element. When you see all the lights in the sky when Clark is released, that's the other Kryptonians that were fighting near the gate when Clark opened it. They got pulled through and released into our world. And so Clark finds himself on a quest to find and either destroy the Phantoms or return them back to the Phantom Zone before they bring about more destruction on the Earth. And the crazy thing is because some of these are Kryptonian, a lot of them are just spirits of aliens or just aliens themselves from another world. These are powerful beings that are evenly matched with Clark. So it adds this extra interesting element in this quest. So I thought it was very cool to see Clark go through this season and have to track down the zoners and put them back. And so there were cool elements with that. I loved it when he found Raya, or really, Raya found him.
Every day I'm reminded I'm not one of them.
You're not alone anymore. I'm here.
But even more than that, what I love about Raya is her and him going to the Fortress of Solitude. And that look of disappointment on her face when they enter the fortress and it's dark and it's broken. But what you really feel is the weight of that, because she brings home the weight of that.
The fortress was a storehouse for all the knowledge in the universe. At least all that we had. How could this happen?
Jor-El gave Clark a Kryptonian inheritance greater than anything he could ever comprehend. And rather than doing his training, and rather than tapping into the fullness of all that Jor-El left him, he was afraid of Jor-El and kept running from him.
I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything.
Everything except the training your father wanted for you.
And Raya helped Clark to see the amazing inheritance that has been left him, the wealth of knowledge, and really the power that has been left him. Humanity will destroy itself. And his whole training is so that he can learn how to save humanity and reach his destiny. So I love that Raya reaffirmed that in him. And again, as I'm even thinking about this and saying this out loud, it's like us. Because a lot of times we don't realize all that God has given us when he gives us the Holy Spirit. All that Jesus did for us when he died for us on the cross. All that is truly available to us. Have we truly realized what our inheritance is? Or do we keep running from God? Or do we keep finding excuses for not picking up the Bible and digging in and getting to know what it says and getting the knowledge of what God has truly left us? The Bible says, greater is he who is in us than he who is in the world. So I find that a very interesting concept of Raya reinstilling that in him, the importance of his destiny. Sad that, Bow Wow's in here and kills her, but even when she's dying and she's faced this disappointment of seeing the Fortress of Solitude gone dark, she still leaves Clark with hope.
Restore the fortress. I'm sorry. I couldn't share in your destiny.
And doesn't leave him condemning him. So it's a very powerful moment, and everything Raya is in the show, it's 2 episodes, but they did a great job with her.
For the first time, I'm ready to stop running from who I really am, from my destiny.
Something else fun about season 6, we get a new Superman power! I love it because it's the first time ever Clark sneezes and he blows the barn door off. Now, it's very interesting because he goes into the Phantom Zone where he has no powers. He comes back to the Earth, and then we have the consequences of Dark Thursday. Brainiac's virus that he unleashed in our technology that was shutting it down. And so he's helping clear the streets and all of that stuff. So he's pushing himself further than he's ever pushed himself before, and coupled with being in the Phantom Zone and having lost his powers, he must have picked up something. Clark was dealing with his first cold. And I love this panic-strickenness of the fact that he sneezed.
I sneezed.
And then I love, him and Chloe talking about it, and I love this moment where he teases Chloe.
No.
Just kidding.
It's fantastic. But what I miss is Jonathan Kent. Don't we love Jonathan being there with him and walking him through getting his super hearing, getting his heat vision, walking him through his x-ray vision? But they do a great job with Chloe being that one with him this time, going with him on a mission. They have to break into a safe, but because of his cold, his super strength isn't exactly there. So she goes, well, sneeze at it. And that's where he learns to use his super breath. Do you think he needs a super mint? Or do you think that maybe because he's Superman, and, as long as he's under the yellow sun, he's not really decaying, so maybe he doesn't have bad breath? I don't know. But can you imagine super breath with super stinky breath? There he goes blowing out the fire, saving Lana and Lex at the end. And could you imagine them going, wow, what was that? It smelled really bad. I don't know, but I also love that he blew away the dark clouds and made it a sunny day. It's one of those things where you just see the full potential that is in Clark, but it was a lot of fun having him get a new power. Very sad Jonathan is not here, but Chloe played such a wonderful role in helping him understand that power and how to use that power.
Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen! We get a new DC character this season. Jimmy Olsen, the actor who plays him, does a fantastic job. I love Jimmy. They make him so fun and so likable. What I love about them establishing Jimmy this season is, number one, I love Jimmy and Chloe. I think they're great together. But number two, I love it when Jimmy calls Clark CK. I love seeing their friendship form. You could really see Jimmy Olsen, Superman's best friend. You could see that beginning this season. So that is a lot of fun. And we get new DC heroes this season. First up, Oliver Queen. Season 6, Episode 4 is called Arrow. And when you look and you have a whole show named for one episode of Smallville, it's like, oh, how incredibly epic is that? Now, I put this out on my Twitter, I put it out on my Facebook and my community page. Who's your favorite Green Arrow, Stephen Amell or Justin Hartley? And a lot of you replied what I was thinking even when I posted that. It's hard to pick a favorite, because Stephen Amell is perfect for the Arrowverse. Arrow itself was darker, gritty, it was Batman Begins, and Stephen Amell fit that. He fit it perfectly. Justin Hartley plays Green Arrow in a more comic book, light-hearted version mixed with Smallville. So I feel like they both fit the interpretations of the characters they were playing, and they both did great jobs. But what I love is you could tell what this is supposed to be. It's that friendship between Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, like how they become best friends. But it's Smallville, and for one reason or the other, they just couldn't have Bruce Wayne. But they got Oliver Queen, but they did a good job filling Bruce Wayne's shoes with Oliver Queen. In fact, having watched this whole thing now and knowing all that Oliver Queen and Clark Kent are going to do together, it's like, you know what? You didn't need it to be Bruce Wayne. Their friendship, it's perfect. It's perfect as it is. So I like Justin Hartley. He does a great job as Oliver. And I love how Clark sees the good in him and the potential in him and how they become friends. And I like how they inspire each other, because I feel like Oliver Queen does a really good job instilling in Clark, like, dude, don't wait for trouble to come to your front door. You are gifted. Use your gifts and change the world. So in that way, Oliver Queen does inspire Clark Kent and schools him a little bit. But Clark Kent schools Oliver Queen a little, especially that episode Rage, where Oliver has that serum so that he could heal. And I just love that moment where he's talking to Clark. He goes, we can't all be Clark Kent out there invincible. And you can just really see that in some ways he envies Clark's gifts and he wants Clark's gifts. And he wanted this serum. And he really believed that he could handle it. Like, he could handle the side effect of the rage that he gets. But it begins to affect his relationship with Lois Lane. It begins to affect things around him. And so it's not something that he really can handle. It really is him on drugs causing the same effect on him that drugs would cause him. And so Clark, being the good friend, is working with him to get him off those drugs. And so lots of great moments between Oliver and Clark establishing a solid friendship there. In fact, I love Oliver and Lois. Their relationship is so good. And you know what's so good about it? It's not full of soap opera drama like Clark and Lana and Lex. It's not so filled with that soap opera drama. The show knows Lois and Clark end up together. So it doesn't make you go, well, this relationship is the most important thing in the universe. No. Instead, it's lighthearted. It's fun. It's one of those things where it goes deep enough that you really like to see them together. And you can see that they really are good together. And when they break up, you are saddened by it. Yet you still have that ray of hope because you know she's going to be with Clark. And it's kind of funny because it's her continued pattern. She dated Aquaman, now she's dating Green Arrow, okay? She likes the superheroes. But it's very fun to see their relationship and see how great they are on screen together. So that's a lot of fun, but I love it when she's on to Oliver. And she suspects that he's the Green Arrow. So Clark puts on the Green Arrow outfit. And actual muggers come out to mug them, and Clark has to defeat those muggers, and it's very cool because he gets to use his powers because he's wearing a mask, so to speak. They don't know that it's Clark. So it's very cool. And then Lois, she goes, I'll keep your secret, Ollie. And she lays a huge kiss on him, and Oliver just comes right up behind him like, okay. But what I love is this moment right here where Clark rounds the alley and he takes off his glasses. Do you see that huge smile on his face? You know, part of that is he's a man and a pretty girl just kissed him. Yeah, that definitely is there. Let's be honest about it. But you can also tell by that smile on his face, there was something about that kiss that clicked. There's something between him and Lois that clicks. And so the foundation gets laid, especially here at the end of this episode, where Chloe is like joking around. She goes, oh, Clark, you haven't heard the best part. And Lois tells Clark the story of kissing Green Arrow. And I love how she says,
Ollie's a good kisser, don't get me wrong. But that Green Arrow, he could teach Ollie a thing or two.
But what you can tell is, it's something that clicks, something that is right between Clark and Lois. And so it does a good job setting that up, which then later in the season, When you have Lois Lane who puts on that lipstick that makes her fall in love with the first person that she sees, and it happens to be Clark, and she chases Clark around, it's hysterical. It's one of my favorite episodes just because of how hilarious it is. But I also love that part of what is doing this to her is that there is red kryptonite in her lipstick. So when she finally lays another big one on Clark, the red kryptonite gets in his system and he loses his inhibitions again. I love how he crashes Lana and Lex's engagement party and lays down some truth.
I am not done yet!
But the whole point of this episode is here they are having a hysterical moment between Clark and Lois, a hysterical time with them. But then at the end, when Clark shows Lois that she actually made him a mix CD because when the spell wore off, she didn't remember it. And she saw that she made him a White Snake mix CD. She's like, wow.
Must have really liked you.
And kind of that epic Superman music begins to build. I love this foundation that I feel like is really beginning here that they are laying for Lois and Clark. Because that's that relationship that works. And they are so fun together. Chloe has a kryptonite power, and I think they do such a great job with that. You have this epic episode where this kid, blinded by the second meteor shower, his blindness has this ability to see people who have crypto powers. And I love how he sees Chloe because Clark is there in the room, and when he takes off his glasses, he's like, ah! It's like he sees a bright light. The bright light is Chloe, not Clark, because he's not a crypto freak. He is from Krypton. He is Kryptonian. He's not infected by the meteorites, but Chloe is. And so it's the beginnings of seeing this great power that resides in her. And so rather than showing us her power and giving us a display, they let it be a mystery until the finale. And then you have the episode where we finally get to meet Chloe's mom. And at first what we see is Chloe's knocking out Lex Luthor, running him off the road, and stealing things from him. And then she wakes up and has no memory having done that. And it's like, okay, is this part of her kryptonite power? But what we find is her mom has this ability to control her, really. And so that's what's going on. Her mom is doing it. And you know what's awesome? Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, is Chloe's mom. So awesome. There is a continuity error here. In season 5, when we see Chloe's mom from behind, she's got blonde hair. But you know what? It's worth the continuity error to have Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, be Chloe's mom. She was fantastic in the episode. It's an episode that really shows us the darkness of Lex and how it's consuming him because of 33.1 and how he's doing these experiments on people with kryptonite powers. We learn about 33.1 in season 4 with Mxyzptlk when he loses his abilities and Lex takes him to 33.1, and then we see no more of it until this season. And so 33.1 is a very interesting factor this season because it shows us Lex descending deeper and deeper into the darkness, and that darkness is consuming him more and more, and how he's using Linda Carter, Chloe's mom, because her ability is to control people with kryptonite powers. If she holds something that belongs to them, she can control them. And so he's trying to manipulate them through Linda Carter. So they save her from 33.1, but she goes back into her comatose state because Lex was giving her drugs that brought her out of it so they could use her and saving her. Yeah, they saved her from Lex and they saved a lot of innocent people, but it takes her back into that comatose state. So it's actually kind of sad, but man, Linda Carter did a great job, and overall it was a really good episode. But again, this builds to the season finale where Lois gets stabbed. And when Lois gets stabbed, she's dying. Chloe gets there and finds her, and it's too late. Like, it's too late to call the ambulance. I don't think Lois is dead, but she's lost enough blood that nothing is going to save her at this point. And as Chloe is crying over her, a single tear rolls down her cheek. And it's cheesy, it is, but it's awesome. Because when that tear hits Lois, all this power is unleashed. Greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. But it healed Lois 100%, and Chloe took on the stab wound. And when I saw that, it reminded me of like Galatians 3:13, where it says Jesus became the curse to set us free from the curse. Isaiah 53:4 and 5, and 1 Peter 2:24, by his stripes we are healed. In other words, our junk, he took it on himself to set us free from it. So it's very cool, Chloe's healing power, because I feel like that's an illustration of what Jesus did on our behalf. By his stripes we are healed. Why? Our diseases, our sicknesses, our sins, all of that junk. He took it on. He became the curse so that we could receive his life. And so I thought that was an excellent picture. But one of the best things about having Oliver Queen in season 6 is the Justice League. Oh my gosh. So back to Lex Luthor in 33.1, that he is building an army, his own personal army to combat aliens, to combat crypto freaks, whatever excuse he wants to come up with. Really, it's him messing with people infected with kryptonite and wanting those abilities and then manipulating them, using them, experimenting on them. And so Oliver has put together a team, Impulse, Aquaman, and Cyborg, and now Clark, to destroy 33.1. I love this episode, Justice. And one of the things that I love about it is just the humor. I mean, we know in the later seasons, Chloe becomes Watchtower. You know, she's the one that kind of sits behind the computer and is directing them what to do and where to go. It's also a great growing moment for Clark. And I don't blame Clark for this because he's worked alone all of his life. And Impulse, Bart Allen, is in trouble. And so he knows where the facility is. He's going to waste no time. So he rushes to the 33.1 facility and runs into a room full of kryptonite. He gets in over his head. For the first time, Clark needs a team. And for the first time, there is a team of heroes that have Clark's back. This episode was awesome just to see Green Arrow, Cyborg, Aquaman, Clark, and Impulse all working together. Green Arrow saves Clark. Clark saves Impulse. You have these epic scenes with Cyborg knocking people down and Aquaman coming up through the water, them blowing up that facility in that awesome slow motion walk of the young Justice League. My freaking goodness. It is just epic. So I love that episode, and it doesn't stop there. We get another new DC hero in season 6.
Someone who can do things I could only dream of.
Martian Manhunter. And what I love about Martian Manhunter's introduction, it's in the same episode where we have Drax.
You're eating a Zarg nut.
Everyone's gotta eat.
Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
And Clark is almost destroyed by him until Martian Manhunter saves him. But one of my favorite episodes with Martian Manhunter has got to be Labyrinth. This phantom gets into Clark's head, like possesses him. And because Clark's not a human, he's stronger, so he doesn't overtake him immediately like Zod did Lex. Instead, Clark has to give himself willingly over to the Phantom. And inside of Clark's mind, the Phantom creates this labyrinth, this madhouse, and Clark has been committed to it. There is no Jor-El. There is no Kal-El. There is no Phantom Zone. All of it is Clark. He's mad. He's insane. And all the Phantom is doing is breaking everything down in Clark's life to prove Clark is crazy. Clark is nuts. Clark is never who he said he was. Finally breaking Clark down to where he would give into the procedure. But giving into the procedure is to surrender his heart to this Phantom Zoner. But in the midst of all of this, the Martian Manhunter, which one of his powers is to get in people's heads, gets into Clark's head. And while he's in there, and the Zoner's trying to tear him down, Martian Manhunter is working to build Clark up. And he's speaking truth into him to strengthen Clark against the onslaught of this Phantom Zoner. I love it because in the world, we have that spirit of fear that wants to get into our minds and wants to destroy us. It wants to lie to us. It wants to tell us that we're nothing, that we're worthless, that who could really love us, so on and so forth.
You're an alien from another planet who's responsible for so much tragedy. Do you really want to live in that reality?
But then we have the Holy Spirit, reminding us how valuable we are to God.
You know who you are, Kal-El. Trust yourself.
Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And that's what the Holy Spirit is seeking to bring to us, is liberty. So when those thoughts attack us, when they come on us in that onslaught to create a labyrinth in our mind, to get us lost in fear so that we'll be defeated, there's the Holy Spirit reminding us, I love you, you are valuable, be free. And I see that picture with Martian Manhunter all the way up till Clark realizes, yeah, no, I know who I am.
I know who I am!
And so he doesn't surrender that Phantom, and he defeats him. And it's such a great moment. But I love what they did with Martian Manhunter this season, and it was a great introduction to his character and a great origin. Now, as cool and awesome and epic as all of that is, there is one giant millstone hung around the neck of Season 6. And that millstone is Lana Lang.
This is about what I want.
Oh my freaking goodness. She is just this incredibly annoying soap opera drama that is this gigantic weight on all of this cool stuff that is going on. In fact, as Clark has taken all these steps forward, you have Lana bringing him another 3 steps back because she just keeps drawing him into her soap opera drama. And what drives me nuts about her this season, to sum it up, she just is so entitled. The entire season. Like, she just feels entitled to know Clark's secret. Like, Clark owes her that. No. If Clark wanted her to have his secret, he would have told her. But you know what he did? He broke up with her. And when that happened, she had no right to his secret. If he put a ring on her finger, she would have a right. She would need to know everything about the man that she's marrying, but that's not what he did. So she has no right and she has no claim, but constantly she keeps talking about how she has a right and a claim.
I'm not going to ask you to betray Clark's secret if you'll stop denying that he has one.
I'll find out the explanation about Clark on my own.
To me, that's just ridiculous what she says there. It's horrific. And then it gets worse when she's talking to Nell on her wedding day to Lex Luthor.
If there was something that you had to put past you to get on with your life, and you tried every way that was fair and honest to do that, and nothing worked, is it really wrong to bend the rules just once?
Oh, come on. Fair and honest, my foot. All she does is whine and complains about Clark while she's engaged to Lex Luthor.
If you were in a rebound, why not choose the one person that I hated the most? But I mean, come on, Lana, the joke's over by now, isn't it?
So she connives a little plan so she can skulk in the shadows and see Clark display his powers because she's entitled to this knowledge. In reality, it's violating. So to cut short this sure to be epically long rant, and their need to give Lana something to do this season, all they did was completely weaken her character and made her character so weak that it infects our other characters and it makes them weaker. Namely Clark, who's supposed to be taking all these huge steps forward, is constantly going backwards in this crazy nonsensical obsession with Lana. She just has a right to his secret. She has a right to his private life, even though, well, she's not with him and she's engaged to somebody else.
You can either fight with Clark's ghost or you can be with me. I'm done paying for his mistakes.
The season wants us to believe that Lex is slowly corrupting her. He is not. He's setting in front of her a corrupting poison and she's drinking it gleefully of her own free freaking will. So it takes her character and it makes it all that much more annoying trying to throw in this stupid soap opera love triangle that is really annoying. Oh, and by the way, Clark ends up with Lois, so 120% pointless. But one of the positives with Lana is you see Lex really giving in to the darkness. Now, in season 5, we had this episode Lexmas. I didn't talk about it because it's not my favorite. It totally ripped off Family Man, which, whatever. Point is he saw a vision of him happy and with Lana and with kids. But he turned his back on 33.1, on money, on power, and he was just an average Joe. But he was happy, and his mom was showing him this future that he could have. And then Lana dies giving birth to her second child, and he's convinced he could have saved her. If he had money, power, and resources, he could have got a specialist in there and saved her. I don't think that's true. I think he's deluding himself. But that's part of his old belief system. And so what he should have walked away with, living in the light, his worst day is better than his best day living in the darkness. Instead, he took the wrong message and he said, nope, I'm going to get money, I'm going to get power. And that's where 33.1 comes into play. He sacrificed everything for money and power. Then using money and power, wanted to manufacture that life and vision that he had with Lana. So he dosed her with hormones unknown to her so that her body would give the signs that she was pregnant. He knew that Lana didn't really love him and that she really loved Clark, so he made her believe she was pregnant so that she would choose him.
I don't know whose baby you saw, but I can assure you, it wasn't yours.
And you know Lana didn't really love him because when he proposed, she didn't answer. It took days later in a fight with Clark for her to go, well, here's a man who trusts me and shows me these different sides of himself, so yeah, I'll say yes. Every time she moves forward with Lex, it's because she's mad at Clark. Another reason I can't stand Lana, but Lex, being the devil in this scenario, knows how to press her buttons. He knows how to manipulate her, and he played her like a fiddle, And then it was too late. She was in over her head with the Luthors while slowly herself becoming a Luthor and taking on those traits. It was that infection of darkness that was infecting her as he was yielding to that darkness, trying to manufacture what was in that vision. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? That's what we see in Lex Luthor. He has forfeited his soul for money and power. He is forfeiting his soul the deeper he goes in these 33.1 experiments. And it's just incredibly sad to see this darkness consume him because of how much we love him in season 1. So we're seeing him become more and more the Luthor that we know from the comics and other versions, but it's sad to see him fall, and we really see him forfeit his soul. It's like the episode Lexmas was the Holy Spirit revealing to Lex the true joy that he could have, even in his darkest hour, living in the light. But he chose the darkness to try to manufacture his own light and manufacture his own happiness and protect it his way. And in so doing, he gave himself over to total darkness. Bizarro is how this season ends, and I love this season's interpretation of Bizarro. That it is this Kryptonian phantom that's not like the other phantoms because it was experimented on. And I like it because it's not Bizarro from some Bizarro world, Bizarro universe, or any of that weird hokey stuff. It was this phantom that was experimented upon. And in fighting Clark, it just scratched him or something. I don't know what it did, but it got enough of his DNA to clone Clark's body and inhabit that body in mere seconds.
I'm you, only a little more bizarre.
And I loved it. I thought that was a great interpretation of Bizarro and a great way to end the season. I loved it when Lionel shows up with that kryptonite, puts it on his chest, and he's like, thank you. Because he's Bizarro. He's the exact opposite of Clark, the inverse nature. And so I thought that was a very cool interpretation and a very cool build up to it. That very first Phantom we saw in the opening episode was Bizarro all along, and we've been building up to that. And I think they did a good job using him in season 7, but we'll get to that in season 7. But I thought this was an interesting and unique take on that character and a great cliffhanger with season 6. So what did you think of season 6 of Smallville? Let's talk about that in the comments. While you're there, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian, and hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.